Simon with Assets and Arbitrage. Happy Juneteenth, everyone.
Okay, so today we're going to be doing a Juneteenth celebration. We went out today and celebrated for Juneteenth. So, the family, normal errands pretty much basically. But we were happy. We were happy about and reflecting on what Juneteenth really is and what it means because it's just a word to people. It's just another day off. It's another paid holiday for most of the dominant society, of course. And then, so also you want to, spit game on what Juneteenth is to your society, to our society. So that's what we're going to do today. We got a possible presentation um, from my beautiful wife, and we'll see how that works. But if not, we'll just chop up game about Juneteenth, and maybe we'll just read it aloud if you can't see the visual, just to get the information out there. Most people know this information, but some may not know it all, so we want to get it out there. We want because to me, there's some little tidbits in there that need to be shared.
I do want to welcome Cousin T. Willline,
T.
DK
Willine,
Crypto, and Cousin Mo.
everybody,
So thank you so much for joining
Cousin
us. You guys
Mo,
do a great job of supporting us
thank you
on
very
our
much.
show. So I want to thank you for that. I don't know if it's going to show up.
That's cool. Man. Read.
It's not going to.
All right, we'll just read it like and spit it like knowledge. Like it's just dropping some knowledge. As always, be stacking, stacking, stacking. Your satoshis, your ounces. That's it today, I guess. Well, the last 2 days been good days. If you got some powder on the side, some dry powder, because the price is dipped a little bit. I haven't checked it in the last probably 3 hours, but last I checked it was 64.9. So a little dip down there. If you got extra, if not, you just dollar cost average, whatever time. Yeah, it's staying around there. I figured it danced there. So there's some technicals and everything that says about that price point. So just keep your eye on it. Not much going on with gold or silver. Might not hear much from that until getting closer to quarter three and then moving into quarter three. And so we just stay with low time preference on these things. We don't rush. We're not trying to flip something, get a bag right now. So it's low time preference on these cats out here. And it's you gotta stay diligent though. Gotta stay diligent, especially for my new people who popped in, not here, but just who popped in general. They get frustrated when they buy at a higher price, maybe like at 70,000, 71,000, and you have these pullbacks. It frustrates those people, and we've all been there because once we first popped in, we never popped in at the perfect price, right? We popped in at a certain price, and you're seeing a pullback, eventually. So, is this part of the Bitcoin cycle? You got to be here. We're OG veterans. We've been through these cycles a few times, been through these halvings. You see how the halving go, but if you follow, you stock the flow. Get on Twitter, stock the flow. Check him out, S the F. And he has the stock the flow chart pattern out to 2030 that has some really, really good predictions. So check his chart pattern out on Stock to Flow charts on Twitter or X. I guess that's what it's called. But yeah, we just got to stay diligent, have diamond hands, and continue to work in the way that we're supposed to be working, no matter what the price may be.
So we have a new cousin named Krisky Lee 14.
Oh, okay.
Wants to know, how did the market sentiment feel today? I guess that's 64.9.
Well, do you mean the market in general? I'm sorry, it's open question. You mean the market in general, or just the Bitcoin market? Um, because as far as the Bitcoin market, sentiment was still high as far as I could tell. You got a lot of stuff going on. We talked about the arbitrage that we're seeing with these contracts, right? on the CME, and you can get a little bit of arbitrage by getting the premium over the spot price that's bought on the spot ETF. So you see a lot of big boys playing around with big money and keeping the price real tight. Um, so the sentiment is still good if you are a long term holder. Now, if you are a trader, then then you're going with day to day sentiment and week to week sentiment, which can get really volatile in the price movement. So long term holders, the sentiment was good. Sentiment is still positive. People were still purchasing. If you want to go over, it's interesting. It's a very intricate chart, right? It's very intricate with a lot. You have to study it a little bit, but it's over on Glassnode and it's called SOPR. So it's a SOPR chart, which stands for Spend Output Profit Ratio. And there on that chart, you could see who's buying and who's selling. When I say who, it's not necessarily the person themselves or the entity, but you could see you could see how new the wallet was that just sold 1,000 Bitcoin, right? You can look at that like, oh, that's a newer wallet. So you see newer Bitcoin moving around, right? And that's where you see the big boys moving around with newer coins. You don't see a coin from 2012 being sold, 10,000 coins from 2012. That will open people's eyes and be like, hey, what's going on? So yeah, go over there to Glassnode and check out SOPR, SOPR. And like I said, it's a real intricate, complicated chart. But if you can get a grasp of it and you could really see who's selling, where they're selling at, what price point they're selling at, who's buying, and it gives you a kind of feeling of the market because you can see all the transactions moving back and forth. And we did a show on SOPR before with Glassnode, and we could do it again if need be. It's been a long time, but SOPR is a really good tool. Also, check out Will Clemente on Twitter, or X, I should say. He's a big proponent of using SOPR. Very young man, very young, intelligent man. And follow him on X, and you'll get some information about the use of SOPR and also other things. He brings a lot to the table. So, shout out to Will Clemente. Check him out for market sentiment.
I hope that he answered your question, Krisky Lee 14, who did respond the crypto sentiment.
Okay, good. It's crypto. That's what I hope.
Full of dollars in the dice game. Juneteenth is not a real holiday. Let freedom ring. Hello, family. Um, Fistful of dollars in the dice game. If you could elaborate on what you mean by it's not a real holiday. Are you saying it's not important? Are you saying that we're making stuff up? I would like for you to just maybe clarify your point for us a little bit. But for those of you who don't know what Juneteenth is, the idea is that when the slaves were freed, it took 2 years for the slaves in Texas to realize that they had been freed. Mm-hmm. Union soldiers had to go in there and literally get slaves off of, I should say, the properties. Some slaves were scared to leave, and other slaves had to be freed from the plantation owners. So it just goes to show that the plantation owners knew about the Emancipation Proclamation. They knew about the abolition of slavery, and they were just like, we don't care about that. So they were able to get another 24 months or so of free labor.
Free labor.
Down in Texas. Mm-hmm. So there's that, just like in a nutshell. And of course, in Juneteenth style, the holiday didn't become a holiday until 2021. Mm-hmm. So after that happened, we're talking over 100 and almost 60 years later, people kind of realized this might be important. We probably should commemorate it. And it was written into law in 2021. So this is just the third year of the United States acknowledging, because they don't celebrate it, they're just acknowledging Juneteenth. The other thing is, right, there's some ideas behind it that I think the cousins should consider. One, there were a lot of slaves, and we're going to call them foundational Black Americans, who ran away from their plantation to fight in a war with just the hope that their contribution would lead to some type of freedom. And many of them died during their endeavor, not even seeing that freedom, not being able to enjoy that freedom.
Yes, and this would, what she's talking about in regards would be the Civil War. This would be the Civil War.
Um, so there was that. There's also the idea that foundational Black Americans in the United States are the only demographic who has fought in every single war, conflict, skirmish, whatever you want to call it, that the United States has been involved in.
Fought and died.
Right? Fought and died, right?
Mind you.
No, or fought, died, injured, maimed. No other demographic can claim that accomplishment.
Not at all.
So when you hear the term foundational Black American, and I'm West Indian, right? You got to give Jack his jacket. You got to give credit where credit is due. This is why the term foundational is crucial, right, to this demographic, to this group, right? Foundational Black America, they literally built the country, they fought for the country, they died for the country, only for the rest of the country to just basically show all the disrespect, for people from other countries to come to the United States and show all the disrespect, right? There's no type of respect or honor, to me, that's put on that name.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell by my tone that I have a lot of issues with it, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But we do, want to acknowledge the day. The day is important because of them, right? They creeped. They ain't even crawl. Because they creeped, we were able to literally fly and have a lot of the pathways created for us to do well, to be, I would like to say, the wealthiest group of Black people in the world, right? Right there in these United States. So, I think it is something that we should commemorate and acknowledge when the time comes around.
Yeah.
And also to just keep in the back of the mind, keep in the back of your mind all the disrespect that's associated with it.
Very much so.
So T. Will Line, thank you so much for your constructive criticism. He said that if we get better equipment, wireless mics, people may tune in to, the Mexican adventures and stuff like that.
Oh, you're talking about when we get on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a phone.
Yeah,
It's a Samsung, so it's not even like it's not a good phone. But I mean, you're absolutely right. That would be an endeavor that we would have to invest in and set stuff up and get permission and do all of the other stuff that you're supposed to do as a YouTube influencer.
Yeah.
When you're doing adventures. But I'll keep that in the back of my mind that it might be something we add to maybe Q1 goals to try to start that again. Erica K, thank you so much for joining us, cousin. That's a new name.
Yeah.
She says, Simon family, I've not been able to catch y'all video, but caught y'all today. I appreciate all you do for the community. Blessings. Okay. Thank you so much for your warm words, Erica.
Thank you very much.
T. Willine, I never heard of Juneteenth until I was in my mid-20s. Funny story. I never heard of it until I was about 16, 17. And my recruiter, because they don't teach that stuff in New York. Right? We're so far away from Juneteenth that they didn't even feel like it was necessary to talk about. On the other hand, I went to a school on Long Island. You guys look it up. It's called Malvern High School. Dr. Martin Luther King came all the way to Lakeview. So Lakeview is the black side of town, Malvern's the white side of town. Still that way to this day in 2024. It is still that way. Martin Luther King, in history, came to Lakeview, pictures, everything, segregated Malvern High School so that the black children of Lakeview can attend Malvern High School, okay? And nobody knew anything about it until we stumbled across some pictures in the basement of the high school in 1999. Like all the disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You would think that that would be something y'all would lead with. No. Two, behind the high school used to be a lake, and the school shrinks. The school shrinks. It doesn't shrink. The school sinks about, I'm going to say 3.5 inches or something like that yearly. And while that doesn't sound significant, over 10, 20, 30 years is going to be significant. And there were a lot of bodies found in that lake when they dredged it. You think they taught us that in school? Nope. All the disrespect. So shout out to Malvern High School for not thinking that it was important to talk about its degenerate history and
Mm-hmm.
sharing with us that Dr. Martin Luther King took the time to leave the South, come all the way up north to New York, to
Yes.
Lakeview, right? A town in West Hempstead, Nassau County, to segregate Malvern High School and never taught one lesson, never talked about it. I don't know if there's contracts signed or what, but never mentioned it. Shame on y'all.
So let me ask you a question. I guess we already know the answer, but I just want to make sure that we know the answer. When the lake was dredged and the bodies were found, what kind of bodies were they?
Certainly not the citizens of Malvern.
Okay.
With that being
And
said,
I only bring that up because back in the day when the slaves were running, going through the Underground Railroad, New York was always thought as a safe place.
no, and nowhere was really safe. It's just some places were safer than others.
Yeah, but you thought if you got to New York, you're okay. You're not like if you're still in like Tennessee or something. They even said, you cross right across the Ohio River, that you were supposed to be safe. But like she said, no place was just 100% safe. And, even if you watch so it's a documentary, a little short documentary on BT. I think it's called Book of Names.
Mhm.
Book of Names, and it's about I think it's about a woman who kept the names of every slave that was being transferred, moved out. But a lot of them ended up going up to Canada, Ottawa, the Ottawa area. But there was no, the land was barren. All they really could grow were potatoes, things like that. And then they ended up finding themselves able to go to Liberia. So this is a very interesting, short docu series
Mhm.
that it tells you some things about, going up north and how they forced you further up north to Canada. And this is what we have to keep in mind and remember these things. That's why I say the holiday is important in that regard. It's not
Mhm.
about celebrating, I don't know, have a cookout or something
I
like
think
that.
it's a day to commemorate, and
Yeah,
that's why we use that word because it's a celebration, but it's not.
right.
Just understanding the implication of them being free is celebratory, but the sacrifice that went into that freedom needs to be honored and commemorated. So with Juneteenth, I didn't know anything about it, and my recruiter, my Air Force recruiter, sat and told me all about it one day. It was June, so when he, said Happy Juneteenth to me, I didn't know what he was talking about. And shout out to Sergeant Scott L. Earl of the United States Air Force, who took the time to talk to the delayed entry program about these important issues and events in history. He still does it on his Facebook timeline. So I wanna definitely shout him out. He was foundational in my development for sure. So with Malvern, there was a precocious, very rebellious New York State of mind young lady who was president of the NAACP, Lakeview chapter. Uh, the Black American Study Group, African American Heritage Club, the West Indian Council, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So she decided she was going to blow the top off of this story, right? The principal at the time, she was not his favorite. Let me tell y'all this, not his favorite at all. And she brought the school's awareness. She was able to get them to, bring the pictures up and do this, do that at an NAACP event, to where she received a very prestigious award from the NAACP for doing that. And when she graduated on June 25th, 1999, at the time her maiden name was Ogle. So it's the letter O, right? So they're announcing the names, people are clapping. When they get to Aaron Ogle, I got a standing ovation only for the then principal to tell everybody to save their applause until the end. So that was his lick back for embarrassing him. Two, the other thing that rebellious, precocious student brought to the school's attention was that the elementary school was named after the Grand Master of the KKK, Long Island, Nassau County chapter. Nobody knew that. So
yeah, just Grand Wizard.
Grand Wizard, Grand Master, Grand Wizard. I knew it was something like that.
Grand Wizard.
And she brought that to their attention. And the only reason the school's name changed was because a wonderful principal, unfortunately, he passed away, perished with his family in a fire. So they named the school after him, which was a wonderful thing to do. I think he deserved it. But just to know that the street name and the elementary school name was named after a pivotal member of their community. So, like these little things you need to bring to light, and no good deed goes unpunished, right? They'll find a way to punish you if they can. There's really nothing he could do other than that, because she was off to brighter horizons. But we do want to commemorate these days and remember the sacrifices and the things that people went through in order to establish the freedoms that we do have.
Yeah.
Right? Simon and I served during 2 war campaigns, active duty, right? September 11th. And what you guys may not know is that I was 8 months pregnant with Sean, and I was working 20-hour shifts, right? We were in what they call Delta. It was very serious. Nobody knew what else was going to happen after the towers came down. And my pregnancy, 8 months, didn't matter at all. So, just understand some of the things that people went through in order for you to have some of the privileges that we do have. Our show is about finding your independence, discovering it, capturing it, right? Pursuing it. Y'all know the word pursuit. That's a heavy, serious word. When they talk about the pursuit of happiness, those people who wrote that, and the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, they were basically saying, do whatever it takes to pursue the thing that makes you happy. To pursue something is to chase it, is to actively find ways to capture it, right? Because words are spells. So we never want to take light some of the words that we hear used. They're used on purpose as a form of precision of language, right? To pursue your independence. And this is why we often talk about traveling with intention, right? Finding the environment for you where you can untether yourself from certain areas of activities that they're constantly trying to ingrain you in. They're constantly trying to intertwine you in. They want to create what we like to call a Gordian knot with you participating in that area of activity. Dr. Fully Neely Fuller, Dr. Neely Fuller talks about the 9 areas of activity.
Also with Dr. Francis Cresswell,
his protege. Or his mentee, however you want to frame it. And The sad part is, the disappointing part is you can never fully untether yourself from the areas of activity.
It's very, very difficult.
I don't even know, with God, all things are possible, but I
Yeah.
don't know that the possibility exists today, right? So you can untether yourself from the education system. You can untether yourself from the penal system. You can untether, excuse me, yourself from some of the socio-political aspects of the system.
Politics, which is a
That's why I
big
said
one.
socio-political.
Yeah, that's a big one. Politics, straight up
Um,
politics.
but like banking, even though we're talking about jumping out of traditional finance, shout out to the jump out girls because that's their whole tagline, right? The girls said they jumped out of traditional finance and into DeFi. Even with all of the DeFi that we have access to, it is very difficult to do day-to-day transactions
Mm-hmm.
for your simple living
Yeah.
activities
Yeah.
without being involved in some which way, shape, or form of traditional banking,
Yeah,
traditional
so you got to be
finance.
one of these cats, man. And there's a lot of them out there who are fully off the grid. They barter, different food items, fish for different vegetables. And they create small communities, right? Where they have somebody who grows vegetables, then they have somebody who's a fisherman. And then all the other things that you need inside of that community. But that's really hardcore going off the grid. And so that's one way, but man, it's hard. I mean, you go to check out some of those videos on YouTube.
But the
It's a
choices
hard
and
way of
trade
life.
offs
Yeah,
associated with that type of independence, right? Your choice is freedom, your trade off is any type of comfort, luxury, or convenience,
hmm
right? You're going to trade those three things off right now
right
for
now. Yeah,
independence.
yeah.
And even here, right? We talk about we've been living here in Mexico for 7 years. We
hmm
have the beautiful mountains. The sky is expansive as far as the eye can see. We
hmm
get all of the stars.
Yeah,
We have animals. I went from being a city girl, New Yorker, to a country girl with, sheeps and cows and stuff like that. But you are going to trade off a lot of luxury, comfort, and convenience in order to establish a nation of free range children, right?
yeah,
So that was the decision we decided to make.
yeah. And so, mark most of them off. Like she said, you can't get them all without going extreme. So while you still live in the normal, regular life, mark off the ones you can.
Hmm.
And some of them mark off as you get older. They just fall off, right? For example, your kids are grown, no longer have to deal with the educational system,
Or if you homeschool.
or you homeschool. To You don't have to deal with war, right? You served your country. We served our country. We served in war campaigns, so we don't have to deal with war. That's another one that's off.
Now, the problem though is if the conflict comes to your ecosystem, to your local environment, you got to deal with it. Right? So, and sometimes just being the pawns involved in the two warring powers, some of the little things that end up happening if there's a sanction on a country where we get certain exports, you're going to suffer.
hmm
Little things like that.
But you don't have to be a part of. You don't have to go sit
You directly
in
know.
the foxhole or something like that.
No.
Go dig a trench
Work a
somewhere in Asia.
28-hour day,
Right. You don't have to deal with all that stuff.
8 months pregnant.
Right. So you will maybe feel some of the things of war, but you won't actively be out there because you're just too old after a while.
I want to welcome cousin Alkebalan to the room. I hope I'm saying that right.
Mm.
Cousin Tommy. Tommy said he hasn't caught a live in a while, but we're always happy to see you when you
Yeah.
are here.
Yeah.
Now, Let
Definitely.
Freedom Ring makes a really good point.
Okay.
He says, while we're physically free, many of us are still mentally in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And understand that the slavery psychologically is more gainful to them than the penal system in a sense, right? If you just had to use an illustration of one or the other, right? Because you can have a lot more prisoners right there in the comfort of their home if you can find ways to enslave them mentally than having to round a whole bunch of people up and put them forced labor, in part of the penal system.
Which they're struggling to do.
Yeah, they are.
as we should say, they're having a hard time keeping their numbers up. They're having a hard time keeping the
We ain't
beds
out there
full.
committing crimes and stuff like that. And they
Yeah,
won't tell the truth
it's
about
not
that.
like it's not like when we grew up. Maybe when people was cats was out there. You know, they was outside for real. And
The crack epidemic
yeah, it
also
was real criminals
helped to
outside.
keep jail cells populated.
Yeah,
Now that marijuana is business friendly, right? It's business friendly. We're not, and you got to remember they were putting football numbers on people for ounces of marijuana, right? Like it was nuts. The penalization
yeah,
inequality between us and our counterparts when it came to that. But now that it's business friendly, the numbers have like gone down significantly, and that's something they don't tell the truth about. There's a lot of private prisons that have shut down or are on the verge of being shut down, and the problem with that is that it becomes a economic problem
yes,
in that local area, that the
yes.
local area wants their politicians to resolve ASAP in a
Yeah.
hurry.
So what happens is, if you ever notice in your state, more times than not, the prisons will be put somewhere, right,
Hmm.
kind of middle of nowhere of your state, but that's still the town.
Hmm. And the
And
entire town is usually mom works in the cafeteria, dad's
yeah,
a correctional guard,
yeah,
oldest son is works in admin, the daughter's a nurse there in the prison.
yeah,
Like it employs whole entire households
whole
in these
communities.
small areas that don't have big opportunities within a reasonable drive.
Yeah, it's like the local, like they used to say, the mill or something.
Hmm.
The factory in the small city employed most of the people. You know, like she said, one way or the other, you know, you might not be a correctional guard, but you're tied into that. You're an engineer.
Hmm.
You know, you do electrical or something like that.
There's
And
some
so,
which way, shape, or form that prison pays you. Not to mention the labor that these cats work for Microsoft. They work for Dell. They work for like big time corporations for pennies on the dollar. So keep in mind when we talk about the job market and the labor force, et cetera, there's a large labor force that they quietly don't really even talk about because I don't have to pay you health care and I surely don't have to pay you a reasonable salary.
yeah, and shout out to the firefighters out there. You go out west to California, you see all these fires in the summertime, and the forest fires and whatnot. They bring in a lot of prisoners, trained firefighters who are being, like she said, paid pennies on the dollars to fight these forest fires with unionized, trained, paid firefighters from the area. And they get paid pennies on the dollar. Number two, if they ever got out, they could not use that
That
training and
experience.
experience to go become a firefighter because you probably have a felony.
Yeah, they're probably felons.
And so they'll use you, they'll use your
But we're
labor.
talking about like prisons. We're not talking about county jail.
But yeah, but prisons
Yeah.
they'll use the prisoners to fight the fire.
But I'm just talking about as far as when you get out, why you can't.
Yeah, it's just like the Microsoft. You
You may
can't
have
work
one or
for.
more felonies, yeah. So, cousin Alcobalan said, "What do y'all think about the government offering 75,000 to seniors to join the military?" I haven't heard that. I know that they extended the age. Um, but tell me a little bit about who's offering that. Is it the Army? Is it the Joint Forces? Tell me a little bit more about. Is that a sign-on bonus? Um, Because I ain't gonna lie, I would consider something like that.
Yeah, and
I
I
would
need
go
to know
back.
what rank I'm coming in at.
Yeah, I would go back.
What rank are we coming in at?
Nerd Up Inc. Peace family. Thank you so much for joining us, cousin.
Peace.
But we did just want to bring some attention to why Juneteenth should have some facet of importance
Mm-hmm.
to. Okay, I gotta do update later.
Okay.
Should have some type of facet of importance to us because don't nobody else care about it, despite the fact that they all what's the word I'm looking for? Benefit from
Benefit,
it.
yeah.
All right, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
What was the next thing?
We talked about the chart a little bit,
Mhm.
and the sentiment of the
The
market.
market, crypto market sentiment.
Hmm. Um, we talked about Juneteenth.
Hmm.
There was another
There was
another
something, yeah,
day.
we talked about yesterday we were
Yeah,
supposed to bring up. It was important. Meanwhile, while we wait for our brains, our ramen noodles to get that idea back up, I did want to mention something to you guys.
yeah.
When the phone is in my purse,
Okay.
when you guys are watching influencers, when you guys are consuming content, I know that we've often said it's the message, not the messenger. And I never really kind of like that because it doesn't make sense for you to sit down and talk to me about something that you yourself don't do, haven't done, never did, don't intend on doing, et cetera, et cetera. While the message is still like, okay, I may could benefit from it. Like I may take it and I may run with it.
Right.
You do want to watch some of the influencers that you guys are coming across. We've been noticing that there's a significant amount of, I shouldn't use the word significant. We've noticed in our little social media space that there's a few who have platforms
Yep.
and don't do as they say, right? So you have people who are going to talk to you about moving to Africa and being Africa and right. Don't be a don't be a colonizer light by going all of these different countries.
Hmm.
And they're right there in the United States
Yes.
talking to you about how you should be moving out the country and freeing yourself from A, B, C, D, and E. And while it's great for content creators to, yeah, I'm shooting shots. While it's great for content creators to, like the message is great. The message is great, but my question would be, well, how come you're not there? Like, if this is the cream, if this is the meat and potatoes of your platform, tell me what's hindering you or holding you back from being there while you're lecturing me on this is what I should be doing.
Right.
Um, Again, people who talk about Bitcoin, and when you get to talking to them, you realize they don't even know how to purchase it. And if you realize that they don't even know how to purchase it, then you know they're not purchasing it.
Yeah, you
And
guys.
they're talking about it because it attracts likes, subscriptions, clicks, and watch time. So we want to avoid participating and contributing to the do as I say, not as I do crowd.
Yeah.
Right? There's no reason we would be talking to you guys about intentional travel and living abroad and having a panoptic point of view. And we've been in Cincinnati for the last 25 years and haven't left. Right?
Cincinnati.
So, in the age, to me, this is the age of exposure. I know it's the age of knowing, but when we talk about it being the spiritual age of knowing, because we're in the era of the eon of Aquarius,
Just the truth.
right?
Yeah.
Which is the truth.
Yeah.
The age of knowing. To know something means it is rooted in truth. That's why we are noticing everything almost being exposed and all of the truth bubbling to the top because that's the spirit that has jurisdiction over this time period that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Two, when you consume something, doesn't matter if it's your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth. Sometimes you can consume things through your skin. No matter how you consume it, somehow, some which way, shape, or form, your body's going to metabolize it. So if you're watching certain content, you are metabolizing that content into your subconscious, into your conscious, right? It's kind of meshing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want to kind of get on board with, we have the idea. If it's an idea that benefits you, if it's an idea where there is some type of gain, we're going to act on the idea.
Yes.
Long gone are the days where shoulda, coulda, woulda. I'm going to, you kind of notice people, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And the people who say that all the time, they never do anything they say that they're going to do, right? We don't want to spend our energetic time
Mm-hmm.
in consumption involved in that. So I did want to bring that up. People want to talk to you about travel and they don't travel. You're looking like, I've been watching this for 2 years. I haven't seen you go anywhere. And you're creating content. I get it. But I need to see you, the content creator, live by the words in which you speak if you're going to be out here trying to inspire me. Now, there are a lot of people. I watched this one girl, she talks about travel. She stay on a cruise. Right? I said, you must be a remote worker because you stay on these cruises. And I'm sure she gets a lot of them and stuff for free just based on how her business is run. But that's, if you're into travel, that's the content creator you want to consume, right? Because she's showing you all of the hacks and the ins and the outs while she's actually there doing stuff. But I did kind of notice that a lot of people, right, you're getting relationship advice from people who've never been married.
Yeah, and just to go back to the travel, if you go into the space, you'll see a lot of single people travel. No disrespect to the single people.
Yeah.
But then you have other people who have different situations. Might have a family situation where it's travel. So
that's very different.
So I don't know. I don't necessarily need to hear from you and the things that you're talking about and the little time frame that you say things should and can be done in. When you have 3, 4, or more people that you have to take into consideration.
Right.
So then there's that type of travel, right, where you have a large group travel, and you it's hard to find those content creators.
Yeah, whether it's long term or short term.
They look like us.
Yeah, when you have multiple people that you have to consider, there's a lot of different implications that go along with it. And we address a lot of those in our book. Sam and I spent the day working on that. We're going to continue to spend time working on it because we want it published Q3.
So, like she says, be wary of who you let.
The do as I say, not as I actually do crowd, right?
Yeah, the influencers, I like to tighten it up and just keep a few that I'm very, very comfortable with, I should say.
Right. Lynn Alden, that's what she does. She works in it. She handles it. She has a significant history in it. Right. You don't want to get financial advice. And I'm just making a serious statement. You don't want to get finance advice from somebody in a struggle apartment. Right. I can show you how to flip 30,000 in 60 days trading. Follow me. Follow my trades. No. Right? It says a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is a picture you guys are looking at. When you guys see the babies, Tino walking around, Sean and Reggie and our whole family like in the background and stuff sometimes, those things are important, right? Simon and I, when we started doing the show, we said, hey, we are a family. This is a family show. We're not going to get riled up if, people are moving around in the background. It's a house with people. Audience just has to kind of deal with that.
Yeah, we just all they ask is to keep the noise down.
Yeah, don't be bouncing the basketball and watching the game and stuff while we have a show. And the house is big enough for them to. I'm not going to talk to you about remote work, and I got to get up and go on site every single day. Right, little things, and I want you guys to be very detail oriented and watching. Like, okay, this is great information, but the more you talk or the more you post or however it's communicated or expressed to you, the more I realize this isn't what you really do. This is just content for you in a way to maybe make some extra money. You don't be a part of that facade. So we just want to, Will Hobdy said, we love the Integrity Cousins. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lynn Alden is great. And we never sit down and talk to you guys about something we have not tried, tested, experimented with, run it back again, look at the points of failure. Are there any single points of failure before we come talk to you guys about it?
Right. And like even the people I shout out on Twitter, just you can follow from a technical standpoint, right? They give you solid technical advice. And that's mostly what they talk about. And it's not a whole bunch of other things that they're speaking about, right? You could zero right in on that. And, we won't really tell you about anybody that we, like she said, we haven't vetted out, we listen to.
And it's really important because far too long people have used social media as a way to create the persona that they would like to be recognized for. And here in the age of Aquarius, that ain't gonna fly anymore. The truth is gonna come tumbling, rumbling, crumbling out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not good. And it's a waste of people's time. It's a waste of your time to consume something and that person hasn't indulged in it, participated in it, put the work in to actually benefit from having a platform to discuss those things, right? They shouldn't have earned that right. The Navy's offering 75,000 in enlistment bonuses. Here we go. But after taxes, it'll probably be around 52,000 in 3 payments. Shake my head. I think it's a setup. So just so you know, the military is always utilizing enlistment bonuses in order to entice not only recruitment but retention. So that's really nothing new, to be honest. Even in the 90s during peacetime, when certain sectors of the military were low in retention or low in recruitment, they will hit you with the 65,000 enlistment bonus over the course of 3 years or 5 years, whatever the enlistment contract is. Now, I don't know what the age range is. I know that they've pushed the age range up to 41, which is why Simon and I ain't even bother with it. But it is something that I would be interested in. When I did the Air Force and I worked in medevac, I felt a lot of fulfillment in that particular role for senior citizens. What in the world would they be doing? Because you have to have some type of physical fitness, even if you work in a command center.
Right.
And I wonder what that age actually is. I would need to, for 50 to 70. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. So you go from 41 to 50 and you skip that prime time in between. I would need to see the logistics of that. But I'll look into it, cousin. I'm definitely going to look into it to see what it is that they're talking about. Let Freedom Ring says, I love your honesty and knowledge.
Well,
And we appreciate that.
Well, thank you, my good friend.
In a world full of liars, we be wanting to keep it real with y'all, and we'll be the first people to tell you, I don't know anything about that. We don't need to be the smartest people in the room. If I don't, I didn't know about that. I knew about this. I had no idea about that. Just like we were talking about that, I knew that they upped the age to 41. I didn't know about the senior citizens and the enlistment bonus. It is a setup, but it is a way to entice recruitment and retention, and it's what they've always used. It's what they've always used. So now I don't know what your pay is going to look like. I don't know what rank you're coming in.
06.
There's a lot of
I'm coming in 06.
I don't know if you have a degree. What if you're 50 and you have a master's degree, right? Do you get to come in as an officer? If you're a senior citizen, what does you still have to go through some type of training? Right? What does that look like? Is there a special boot camp now? There's a lot of questions that I would have. I'm sure that the articles that are promoting this probably don't answer, but I would be curious to see some of the details surrounding that. So there's that, right? Make sure that you guys are vetting what you're consuming. Don't waste your own time by consuming content that. Two, while we're talking about consumption, there's a lot of streaming, like Netflix and Hulu streaming platforms. Movies are back in the movie theaters, so on and so forth. It's very, very, very important that if you guys are going to watch movies and TV shows and stuff like that, you definitely want to watch it in a conscious mode, right? Diligently looking for all of the
signs.
I call it like decoding. You want to decode the movie. What are you really trying to tell me? We don't want to watch movies anymore in, is it theta or delta? In one of those more relaxed waves. You want to watch it in alpha. Leave the World Behind is something I think everybody who watched that automatically watched it in alpha because they wanted to know what the elites, aka the Obamas, were really trying to tell people. You want to watch all movies, cartoons, animations, anything that you are consuming, you want to watch in alpha mode and say to yourself, What are the signs and the symbols? What kind of decoding can I do as I watch this? Something as mundane as Suits or Monk. I'm naming old shows because it's been that long since I sat and watched TV. But even comedies, you don't want to watch comedies in that relaxed state. What is the comedian really telling you? So keep that in mind. Then you have 100% benefits afterward. Yeah, you'd be dead. I bet you will have 100% benefits
maybe
afterwards.
75.
Lots of benefits in the kingdom of heaven because that's where you're going to be at by the time your enlistment's over. And the stress that's involved. That's why the military originally, you couldn't be there for that long. Once you got to a certain age, doesn't matter how great or grand, they would force retirement on you because the stress to kill you, and now they're on the hook for the payout.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want that.
They do not want that at all.
So
yeah, you have 100%.
right. So I don't know. I'm gonna look into that, cousin, because that's interesting to me, and that means all bets are off in a lot of different areas. So I would definitely look at that, especially since when you consider it, we've been in ongoing conflicts since 2001.
Mm-hmm.
There's not been a break in conflict since September 11th. Right? Whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Iraq, whether it's the Ukraine, Israel, little stuff that they didn't even tell us about in certain parts of Europe and in Africa. It's still conflict. There's still occupation in a multitude of countries that you have to ask the question, why are we in those countries? He said older people are more, Leffie and Ring said older people are more dedicated. I don't know that they're more dedicated as much as they're more solid. As you get older and you mature, I would like to think that you do get more solid. You are going to show up somewhere on time. You're not going to be distracted by the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever we got going on in the U.S. today. Your priorities are more in order, but that should start at 40. I'm noticing now 40 is the new 25, 50 is the new 25. I'm out here seeing 55-year-olds at the club still trying to pull young girls and doing weird stuff.
Where they doing that at?
Cincinnati.
Where they doing? I mean, I haven't been to
New York. Name the city. St. Louis.
Been to the United States. So
I see them on my timeline and I think to myself, you're too old for this. You're just too old for some of this stuff. You should be at home bouncing a grandbaby on your knee.
Nah, not like that. They don't even look at it like that.
So just, piggybacking over consumption, we really want to be more mindful about what we are going to consume, what we're going to metabolize, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, physically.
What you consume on your social media timeline as well.
Mm-hmm. People are different today. Yeah, they are.
So, you got to work to fine tune your timeline so that distractions don't come in from the side, right? You want to hear about news, you want to hear about crypto, you want to hear about this, whatever it is you want to hear about, but don't have the distractions because they do pop in, don't they?
Yeah, as soon as you start to get, y'all know I like and they're not even theories anymore. Y'all know I like the conspiracies, so I try to kind of set my algorithm to conspiracies, and then conspiracies somehow, some which way, shape, or form evolved into gossip.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I get how you think the two are, but they're not. I want to hear about what's actually going on. I want to hear what the World Economic Forum is up to. I want to hear about what we're doing on Wall Street. Diddy's woes, not my concern. So those kind of things, you have to be on top of the algorithm because the algorithm is also designed to enslave you. Mm-hmm. We told you guys, and we've been telling you guys, that the psychologists are now coming out and telling you that the average person, when it's all said and done, would have spent 20 plus years scrolling. That's so much time that's wasted. And that's why we were telling you a couple of shows ago, just kind of do a time audit, right? Just be real conscious during your day. How am I spending my time? If time is the most precious commodity, when you spend time, like you spend money, who are you writing that check to? How much was the check that you wrote? Was the person worth the check? Was the amount of currency, which is your time, worth whatever the activity was? Did you get a return on investment in it? Or did you just basically take money, take currency out of your time bank and just hand it over to something where it just got flushed down the toilet? And once you kind of reframe some of these things, you start to move differently. You start to move differently. We're not saying don't get on the gram at all. We're not saying, stay off of Facebook. We're saying just be cognizant.
Be mindful of your time use.
Of how you are spending. See it that way. If that was your Bitcoin, would you have spent your Bitcoin on that? Would you have written a check for the equivalent in Satoshis? And most of you guys gonna be like, hell no. Your time is even more important than all the Satoshis that have ever been discovered. Time is the most precious commodity. It is the thing you cannot get back. So you want to be mindful in how you utilize your time and start framing ways to be more productive with your time so that that input provides some type of return on investment. I spent my time doing this, and you know what? I had a great benefit from it. And you can feel good about how you spent that time and not like people be mad when their time gets wasted. Right? You'd be even more mad if somebody wasted your Satoshis. Treat your time like you treat your sex. And you'll see how different your life begins to feel. So there's that. I mean, I can't remember. Tom and I had this whole conversation.
Yesterday morning?
It was definitely yesterday. We had a whole discussion about it. And I can't believe it is eluding both of us.
Give us 1 second. Let me think.
And we ended up getting sidetracked with the Juneteenth presentation, which can't even show.
Yeah, we can't even show. Well, I mean, that was good. Time, that's really good.
Yeah, time is currency.
Really good breakdown.
It is a currency. And when we talk about currency exchange, you want to frame it. There are certain people, just like you wouldn't give them any money.
Don't give them any time.
Even more so, they shouldn't have access to your time. Even more so. So, we want to start reframing a lot of things in our lives in order to benefit from the productivity and the constructiveness, if that's a word, it's not, that comes from it. But
yes, being constructive is definitely important.
Right.
That's one of the tenets, a huge tenet of Neely Fuller, is being constructive.
We're wrapping it up now too. Let freedom ring. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say. Be constructive, in your day. Just be mindful of that. Be mindful, like she said, of your time and your time spent doing certain things.
And don't allow fake content creators to waste your time. Right? Time isn't, we talk about spending time. You pay attention. That's time. Listen, words or spells. Listen to the way colloquialisms are put together. So be mindful of that. Bye, Cousin A. I'm going to look up the military thing. We're not going to keep you guys any longer. In addition to that, definitely you want to look into, I don't know why all this stuff is escaping me now. I was going to tell him to look into something that we talked about earlier.
Well, it's not today, Friday.
All right. Yeah, we'll all remember everything on Friday.
It'll catch up.
But thank you, Erica K, for coming. I hope we see you
so
again, cousin. And there are 42 people, I think, at the height of the show. There's 38 in the room now. People are signing off. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. Thank you so much for your support, your time, and your attention. And we'll see you Friday, 7-ish.